So the Chiefs are getting some key players back soon, with one of them trending towards playing this week. This addition is going to provide a definite boost to the offense, but in spite of that, many are still concerned about the blind side of Patrick Mahomes, and there is a veteran that's reportedly willing to return. So I've got to talk about that and so much more, but first, how about those? All right, first up, before I get into more exciting news about the Chiefs seemingly getting healthy at the right time, I did want to mention that there's been a weird series of seemingly targeted theft and burglaries taking place around the KC area, with many of them, for whatever reason, targeting Chiefs players. I mean, I know they have a lot of money, but it's been a lot of Chiefs players over the past 6 or so months. Both safety Najee Johnson and wide receiver Xavier Worthy got their cars stolen months back. Then Chris Jones shared last week that Mike Pennell had his car stolen as well. And then yesterday, TMZ dropped a bit of a bombshell of an article reporting that both Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes had their houses burglarized roughly 24 hours or so apart back in October. Mahomes' house was reportedly broken into on October 6th, around midnight, with the incident being reported to the police around that time. Then on October 7th, when the Chiefs took on the Saints at Arrowhead for Monday Night Football, Kelce's house was broken into around 7:33 p.m., which was right around kickoff. Allegedly, they stole $20K in cash, and his back door was damaged. And after that happened, Kelce and Swift reportedly stayed at a downtown KC hotel instead of returning home the night of the burglary because their security teams were not taking any chances and not playing any games. Mahomes himself was asked about this today during his presser, and while he was definitely disappointed, he couldn't really say much at this point in time.
It's frustrating, disappointing. I mean, I can't get into too many of the details because the investigation is still ongoing. Obviously, something that you don't want to happen to really anybody, but obviously yourself.
So yeah, it's a pretty disappointing thing to hear happening. All the car thefts as well as the break-ins to both Mahomes and Kelce's houses right around the same time. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. That's the most important thing, but still, sucks that it even had to happen. All you can do is hope for the guys that are doing this, they eventually get caught. But who knows if or when that'll even happen, and if they are caught, there's always going to be other idiots willing to take their place and do stupid stuff like this regardless. Next up, the Chiefs take on the Buffalo Bills this Sunday in Buffalo and are currently 2.5, some say 1.5, but I think the most updated odds are 2.5-point underdogs, with most people, you can see here on the screen, predicting the Bills to win this game. However, Land Clark is the head official for this game, and Bills fans are already crying about it because the Chiefs are 5-0 with him as their referee. Meanwhile, the Bills are 3-2. It's getting a bit more pathetic than usual over there in Buffalo, with Buffalo versus the refs merch being sold prior to the game because, if the Bills end up winning, that's going to be a nice, clean, fairly officiated game. But if the Chiefs win, it's definitely going to be the ref's fault. It's funny, because when you look at actual facts via data collected from Joseph Hefner of KCSN, shout out to him, he's a great follow on Twitter, but the Chiefs and Bills have been blessed by the refs about the same amount of times through 10 weeks of football. The Chiefs have a net of 13 more calls going their way compared to opponents. Meanwhile, the Bills, they have 12. So you were talking about a difference of one measly flag. However, if you look at judgment calls, such as illegal formation, roughing the passer, PI, etc., the Bills are 15th. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are 7 spots lower in 22nd. It's only a difference of 2 more judgment calls going the Bills' way against their opponents compared to going the Chiefs' way versus their opponents, but still, there's really no metric out there that supports the Chiefs being favored by the refs. And then we have some great news here for the Chiefs, who are getting several key pieces back at just the right time. Well, some are returning sooner than others, but still, it's great news almost all around. Jordan Schultz reported first yesterday that per sources, the Chiefs are planning to designate running back Isiah Pacheco and defensive lineman Charles Omenihu to return from IR/the PUP list this week. Pacheco was on IR, but Omenihu was on the PUP, and Andy Reid confirmed today during his presser that both of these guys had their 21-day windows to return opened up, with the local media confirming both Pacheco and Omenihu were at today's practice. Now, don't get too excited just yet, because Andy then said almost immediately after that they are both unlikely to play this weekend in Buffalo, and it makes sense. They haven't practiced with the team at all. So you are, in theory, going to want to give them a little bit more practice reps under their belt before giving them some actual real game reps. A couple things to note about Pop and Charles: with their 21-day windows to return open, They don't yet take up a roster spot on the 53-man roster until they are activated, and currently, the Chiefs have one spot available on the 53. So in order to bring them both back, one player will have to be let go to make room. As of right now, the Chiefs have 10 defensive linemen, 5 DTs, and 5 edge rushers on the roster. The 5 defensive tackles are Turk Wharton, Marlon Tuipolatu, Mike Pennell, Derek Nottie, and Chris Jones. The 5 defensive ends are FAU, Mike Dana, Malik Herring, George Karlaftis, and Cameron Thomas. The 2 guys along the D-line that aren't really seeing much playing time at all right now are going to be Tuipolatu and Cameron Thomas. So maybe we see one of them let go. Either way, the return of Omenihu is a very welcomed addition to a defense that is like bottom 7 in the league in sacks. I think they have 19 on the year. Omenihu can also kick inside, and when you combine that with Chris Jones being able to kick outside, Karlaftis heating up, Mike Dana just returning from injury, and Joshua Uche, who the Chiefs just traded for from the Patriots, getting more comfortable in Spags' system, I like where the D-line is headed as KC gears up for the playoffs. Then the running back room at the moment has 4 guys. You've got Kareem Hunt, Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. CEH is the only guy that's been a healthy scratch the last 3 or 4 games since he returned from the NFI list, but I'm not sure if he's the guy KC ends up letting go or not, considering the mental health stuff he's been working through, the PTSD flare-ups and all that. My thing with that is, talking about CEH even being brought back from the NFI list, why did they bring him back at all if he's just going to continue to be a healthy scratch? Carson Steele could honestly be the guy to lose the limited snaps he has been seeing on offense, especially since he's struggled a bit more in pass protection, which honestly isn't a huge surprise for a rookie running back. Pacheco will instantly be an upgrade at catching passes out of the backfield, pass protection, and in his overall burst and speed compared to Steele and Kareem Hunt for that matter. That's why I think Pacheco will help offset Kareem's workload and make things a bit more balanced of a 1-2 punch combo. Kareem has been running the hell out of the ball, 21 plus carries the last 4 of 5 games, with his lowest coming last week. I don't know if that's a combination of his knee kind of getting tweaked at the beginning, or they just were struggling running the ball against the Broncos in general, and they decided to instead use him more in the pass game, and that worked very well. And with his knee getting a bit banged up in this game, getting him healthy for the playoffs as well is much needed in my opinion. Again, Pacheco has the burst and the speed, while Hunt definitely has that elite vision, so I'm definitely keeping Kareem in on gotta have it downs. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, goal line situations, stuff like that. Meanwhile, Pacheco, he could do that as well, but I like him on downs where you never know whether or not he's going to be taking a handoff or catching passes out of the backfield. Of course, Perine is the 3rd down back who will be in on most passing down situations, but the running back room is going to look incredible with the return of all these guys, especially if they're able to stay healthy, and I think that is the biggest silver lining of this entire situation. If Pacheco never got injured, Kareem Hunt is never picked up. The combo of Hunt and Pacheco is something I cannot wait for, though sadly we will have to wait at least a week or 2 longer. Ultimately, from a roster standpoint, I'll be curious to see what KC ends up doing to make room for both guys, who will most likely return within the next 2 to 3 games. Since neither will be good to go for Buffalo this Sunday, that means we could either see them in the Week 12 game against the Panthers or the Week 13 game against the Raiders. Whenever we do see them, they will also probably be getting ramped up from a snap count perspective. So the way I'm looking at it is both of them should be a full go roughly around the time they are really needed the most. And that time, in my opinion, is when the Chiefs play 3 games in just 11 days. That's right. The Chiefs play the Browns on December 15th, then the Texans on December 21st, and then the Steelers on Christmas, which is December 25th. We all know that. So having both Omenihu and Pacheco fully back in the rotation in time for that, and ultimately for the playoffs, is going to be key. And while we likely will not have those 2 back for this Sunday's game, Andy Reid did say there's a good chance wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster is able to play in this game after missing the last few with a hamstring injury. They will ultimately see how he does at practice this week, but if it was up to Juju, Andy Reid said he would for sure be playing. And I do think he is trending in the right direction, and this would be huge if he's able to go. He would be a big asset to the wide receiver room if he is indeed healthy enough. Think about it. A third option that has shown clear trust and rapport with Mahomes, aside from Kelce and D-Hop, and he's now a guy that will be getting opposing teams CB2 or even CB3s at times because you've got DeAndre Hopkins and Travis freaking Kelce to worry about first and foremost. Sure, Juju isn't who he once was, but just roughly a month ago, he caught 7 passes for 130 yards against the Saints. So this is going to be a huge boost for the wide receiver room, especially with Justin Watson plays a different role, but he's been a bit quiet lately. And then Worthy, he's still working through his growing pains as a rookie. And even Mahomes himself said he missed him on a deep shot last week. So I hope this week they can connect on one. And while that's great, many around the kingdom are still pretty concerned about the left tackle spot in particular because Kingsley Suamataia almost looked unplayable at times in this game when he had to come in after Wanya Morris banged up his knee. Andy Reid did seem like things were okay with Wanya's knee though, like it's nothing long-term concern or anything like that, saying, quote, he tweaks it every now and then, that's what happens. He comes out, then he's able to go back in. However, with Wanya's knee giving him problems from time to time, how about the Chiefs just go ahead and call up former left tackle and longtime veteran Donovan Smith? After all, Nate Taylor of The Athletic reportedly said yesterday that Donovan Smith is ready to go, i.e. he's in football shape, for the Chiefs the minute the phone call is placed. And if Wanya's lingering knee issues during this upcoming week in Buffalo continues, Nate expects Donovan Smith to be on the team. Well, all right then. That's exactly what they need to do, in my opinion, regardless how Wanya's knee plays out this week, because you can never have too much O-line help or depth. I mean, please, for the love of God, never ever forget Super Bowl 55. Protecting Patrick Mahomes should be top priority, especially considering his ankle isn't 100%. This is his blind side we're talking about. And we just watched the Broncos almost obliterate him out there on the football field on multiple occasions. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Should the Chiefs go sign Donovan Smith now or in 5 minutes? Speaking of the offensive line, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN listed right guard Trey Smith as the number 2 player of 25 players set to hit free agency that team should be looking out for. He also said the Chiefs would love to re-sign Smith, but knows that's going to be tough because there's an expectation that Smith could become the highest paid guard in the NFL, and that would mean he's getting somewhere around $22 million per year, and quote, the Chiefs are at least bracing for life without him because of that price. Well, the interior trio of Tooney, Creed, and Trey Smith is probably the best in the league, but if you're the Chiefs, I don't know how you can afford to keep paying everybody to stay together. Jawan Taylor's making $20 million a year. Joe Tooney has a cap hit of $26 million next year if they don't restructure him or extend him. Then Creed Humphrey, highest paid center in the league. He's making an average of $18 million per year. And I know that's a conversation for another day, but Brett Veach has some tough decisions to make heading into next year because you also have heavy hitters like Nick Bolton. The wide receiver room needs a complete refresh because you only have Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice under contract past this year, aside from Sky Moore, and he's probably not a Chief next year. But this is a convo for another day. I do want to get your thoughts on this current season, though, rather than next year and free agency and all that. What are your thoughts about bringing back Donovan Smith? And then let me know your excitement levels on the hopeful return of Juju Smith-Schuster for this week's game against the Bills, as well as the eventual return of Omenihu and Pop within the next couple of weeks. Before I get out of here, I do want to take a look at today's injury report for both the Chiefs and the Bills. And upon looking at this injury report, we actually have a couple new Chiefs players worth talking about before we jump into just a few players to keep an eye on for the Buffalo Bills. You got Charles Omenihu and Isiah Pacheco on here. No surprise, they're going to be limited, maybe even all week as they come off of IR and they begin to ramp them up during their 21-day window to return. Juju with the hamstring was limited, and that's going to be key. If he's trending towards playing on Sunday against the Bills, we need to see fully participating Juju on Thursday and or Friday, or at least on Friday. And regardless, he will probably, I'm guessing, be listed as questionable. But again, he's trending to play, and that is going to be a much-needed asset for the Chiefs offense. Mike Dana, McCole, DeAndre Hopkins, that's new. Knee. He was a full participant. Here's the thing. If you need treatment on any body part, if you're sore or need worked on at all, I believe you have to be on the injury report in order to get treatment. So some of this doesn't mean much at all, but it is worth noting. DeAndre Hopkins, McCole Hardman, and Juju are all on the injury report. That is 3 of the Chiefs' receivers. Kareem Hunt always on there. Nothing to worry about there, although I am glad to see that he was a full participant today. I was a little concerned he might be limited today, even tomorrow, but the fact that he was a full go, this is the first Wednesday he's fully participated in a practice, and on Wednesday rather, in quite some time. And other than that, it was also great news to see Wanye Morris, who we talked about with the concern of his knee, even not knowing fully what is going on with his knee. As Andy Reid said, he re-aggravates it from time to time. What does that even mean? Anyway, he was a full participant today. You do have a new injury of Patrick Mahomes' ankle and hip. So he was getting treatment on his hip and his ankle. Full participant, not super concerned, but he did add a body part to the injury report. We knew he had the ankle sprain, but the hip is definitely new. Other than that, no real surprises. The main things to look at here for the Buffalo Bills: Josh Allen, I'm not concerned. That's his left hand, his non-throwing hand. But I do want you to pay attention to Spencer Brown. That's their starting right tackle who left the game last week with an ankle injury, and he did not participate at all today, as did Keon Coleman. That's their rookie wide receiver. He's already been ruled out. He's not going to be playing this week. Another guy to keep an eye on is Amari Cooper. That's who the Bills just traded for a few weeks ago. And he did not play last week, although I think he's trending towards playing this week. But that is another guy to keep your eye on. And then the last 2 guys that I really want to talk about are going to be Dalton Kincaid, tight end, one of the receiving guys that Josh Allen is going to be looking for out there on the field typically. He did something to his knee, tried to return last week during the game and was not able to go. He was enlisted as doubtful and never returned in the second half, or he tried early in the second half and then didn't return for the rest of the game. He might not be playing in this game, and that is another pass catcher that Josh Allen might be without. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And then I believe Matt Milano, one of their best linebackers, he just had his window to return opened up from IR after tearing his bicep. I don't know that he's going to play this week, but he's going to be a key piece that the Bills are going to get back. And with that, that's the injury report. I don't read a lot into Wednesdays. You want to look at more how Thursday and Friday trends, and then you'll get their designation Friday sometime in the afternoon. So let me know your thoughts on the injury report. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?